Voted no on the budget reform bill. Congresswoman, I'm glad you're able to be with us. Do you agree with Lindsey Graham on what he had to say?
I'm not sure he's exactly right. I still think we're going to retain the House. I'm not sure about the Senate. I think the message coming from Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and quite frankly, in my own state, Andrew Cuomo, is not a message that is resonating with constituents. I know some people may not love the president, but they like the policies, and we desperately need tax reform. We need to jumpstart our economy. As you can see, the enthusiasm is bringing our growth, our GNP, up substantially. So our growth is over 3%, and I think with tax reform, we're going to go even higher. And middle-class families are waiting for this.
But at the same time, then, you voted no on the budget bill. So you do want tax reform, but in order to get there, there's got to be an overwhelming, I guess, consensus on getting there. But then you stop it with this budget bill. Why?
Right. I voted for the initial budget that was put out by the House. The budget that came back from us from the Senate was changed. Not only did it add $1.3 trillion in more debt, but one thing it did is there was a non-binding amendment that sent a directive as we head to budget tax reform. It indicated that we should not include what is called the SALT, or the state and local tax deductions. That's a huge problem for upstate New York, and especially overall the state of New York. We're a very high tax state through no fault of the taxpayers, but through the very poor policies in Albany that have been ran through with high taxes, high cost of living, and particularly on the local level, as unfunded mandates have forced us to some of the highest taxes in the nation. And without SALT, something like 62,000 or greater of my constituents would end up paying more in taxes if we eliminated the SALT deduction altogether. We voted no, a number of us in New York State, 7 out of the 9 Republicans and every other Democrat voted against the budget because of what was coming in the tax reform bill. We immediately met our majority and with our leadership, including the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, and talked about ways that we can come up with a compromise or reform of this to include SALT, either 100% or in some capacity, so we can protect our middle-income taxpayers.
Okay, and this week, we saw a 3% economic growth bump under current chairwoman Janet Yellen. Should the president be looking elsewhere with this kind of positive growth? He says he kind of wants to make his own mark on the Federal Reserve, but if the economy and the indicators are going so well, replacing Janet Yellen, is that the answer?
I don't think Janet Yellen can take too much credit for where we are. I think the enthusiasm coming from tax reform, the possibility of repealing and replacing Obamacare, the possibility of unleashing the American dream with so many middle-income taxpayers who've been left behind with tax and spend policies. And I think the Fed actually has intervened too much in the economy and created some false narratives for us. I think Janet Yellen, I had her. She testified in front of the House Financial Services Committee with my committee, and she actually admitted some of the problems that have held back our economy, and they include some of the policies of her own appointer, President Obama, and some of the policies she had. She was incorrect when she talked about what was happening on the ground. We find that she said, well, baby boomers are retiring. That's what's wrong with our economy. Well, it's actually the opposite is true. The baby boomers are working more now than ever, and they're contributing to the economy. Our biggest struggle is those people 25 to 55 income level to get to work and to get out there. And some of them are unable to find jobs, or they're not qualified for the jobs. That's some of the issue. And I think that Janet Yellen should not be the one doing the victory lap here. I think it's the hope and the enthusiasm coming forward, what the economy has to offer.
So you want to see a replacement?
I'd like to see a replacement. I think there are other people that can do a much better job than Janet Yellen. I haven't decided who I like there, but it's not my decision, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Senators Flake and Corker both deciding not to run again in 2018. Even calling out the president as being a disruptor. What do you make of their comments, and what does this do to the Republican Party?
I'm not sure it really has any reflection on the Republican Party. I'm someone who is very much an outsider. I got to this job, never been endorsed by my local Republican committee, ever. And I served 3 terms in the state assembly, and I'm now serving the House of Representatives. So I think more of an unconventional Republican, someone like me. I think the president is there as really someone that was there to break plates, and I personally don't like to get into his personality or those types of things. I think my constituents may not love what he says and does and some of those things, but they like the agenda, and that's what we're finding out as I travel around my district. People are, wish he'd stop doing so much Twitter and, focus more on the agenda. But I mean, a lot of things have happened. This has been one of the most productive Congresses in just 10 months. We've had so many bills passed, so many changes have been made. Our House, some of the things, our bills are piling up in the Senate, nearly 300 bills we're waiting for the Senate to act on. So when those things start happening, I think you're going to, again, back to the economy, I think the economy is going to continue to move up. I think the Republicans are going to be in good stead. They may lose a few seats next year, but I think overall, I think the Democrats have not shown a real reason to vote for them at this point. The policies of Nancy Pelosi in the past had not helped the American people, and moving forward, maybe some people don't want to, may not love the president, but I think they like the agenda. And I think if he can get some of it through by the end of this year and early part of next year, you're going to see growth, and you're going to keep coming from the Republican side again.
Yeah, except there are so many still debating. There have not been any big legislative passages at all in this year thus far.
Yeah, we're going to get tax reform, and that's really the most significant tax reform in 31 years. I do want to say, put my pitch in for the state and local tax deduction. That was on the chopping block back in 1986 when Reagan did his historic reform. It was saved, and we'd like to save it again, at least in whole or part. So we're going to be fighting for that as New Yorkers, and I think some of the California, Illinois, New Jersey, some of the other higher tax states, where their poor taxpayers are victims of very democratic, progressive policies that have hurt the state. We're going to fight for our constituents, regardless of party.
All right, we'll leave it there. Congresswoman Tenney, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.